Golden Spiral Media presents The Blacklist Exposed.
Hello, special agents. You have come to the right place. Welcome to The Blacklist Exposed. I am Agent Troy Heinrichs. We are here with a special edition of The Blacklist Exposed with our Season 1 special archive episodes. The following episode appeared on the TV Talk Network for Season 1 of The Blacklist, and we're bringing it to you here on The Blacklist Exposed, remastered and used with permission from TV Talk. We hope you sit back, relax, and enjoy this special episode from Season 1.
You're tuned in to TV Talk, The Blacklist. Welcome to TV Talk, America's #1 TV talk show network. And now it's time for TV Talk, The Blacklist.
Typically, there are three sides to every story: the victims, the perpetrators, and the alchemists. Welcome to TV Talk, The Blacklist. I'm Dave.
And I'm Troy, here to discuss number 101 on The Blacklist, The Alchemist, airing January 20th, 2014.
We want to welcome all the listeners listening via iHeartRadio, Stitcher, iTunes, and of course via the free TV Talk app for iOS and Android. So, Troy, what's been up with you?
The Alchemist, you might be able to change the DNA and dental records, but you can't fake voices.
Oh, okay. Thought we'd just have a little fun there, Dave. So,
how many people you think are going, what?
So a little recap, because I think we need some backstory for this episode, because I don't know if it was just me, but were you a little kind of thrown off, confused a little bit this evening?
I really was. This one, they kind of lost me in a couple different areas. I'm still not 100% sure that I totally understand what was going on.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to rewatch this one. So let's kind of set the stage. So here's what we know so far. Lizzie has a scar in her hand. The scar symbol is also on the top of the box that Tom has. Gina Xanatakos also had a box that had the same exact scar, but we know that Red actually set up the interview in Boston where Gina was also there to do the assassination attempt. So we assume that Red basically planted both Tom and Gina's boxes.
Right. And then, of course, Red saved that nerdy guy when he was buried in a refrigerator, gives him some access to that incredible database, and he uses that to get the code that they got from Wu Jing and his friends to find the woman that was known as Lucy Brooks or Catherine Hain.
Right, and we can't forget about the photo that Red took from the stew maker. We still don't know if that was Lizzie or Red's wife or this Lucy Brooks character. Just not quite sure because the picture was a little faded and outdated.
Right. And adding even more to that, we have that gigantic house explosion that when Red blew up the house, that was either the house that he and Liz lived in or Lucy lived in, or they grew up there or something. We don't know. We just know that Red bought it and then destroyed it.
Okay. Everybody confused now? Perfect.
We've done our job here.
Because with this episode tonight, we got introduced to a guy who basically can make anybody look like anybody else. So now we know that the entire show is basically turned on his head, because at this point, Ressler could be Tom's mom for all we know.
Exactly. And it was an interesting, if not odd, introduction to tonight's episode, as we are introduced to this lady who's getting ready to have a romantic interlude with a man, and she passes out only to wake up on an airplane and look completely different than she did when we seen her 10 seconds ago. She was drugged and she wakes up on an airplane.
And what was more interesting was the fact that she sat across from a guy who she's basically reading the passport and saying his name, but he's also been switched out for another person, and he's just as completely confused as she is.
Yeah, he said he's got these tattoos. He don't know what they are. And he's like, why are you calling me that name? And while they're trying to figure all this out, the pilot kind of gets out of the cockpit and jumps out of the airplane.
And I think this is purposely done because what good TV show doesn't have a few good plane crashes in it once in a while?
Absolutely. And that's exactly what happened. The plane crashes, but it works as a perfect setup into this episode of the man who can make anybody into anybody else.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think later in the episode, did they not find out that the pilot and the co-pilot were also changed by the Alchemist?
I believe so, yes.
So I wonder who the pilot and the co-pilot actually ended up working for then, if they're part of the network with the Alchemist.
I tell you, that could come out down the line. But the one thing we do know for sure is Red is still very untrusting of the CIA. He won't even come in and talk to Lizzie because he knows there's still a mole.
But what a great sequence of events, because I think we're starting to see the inner workings of the Red Reddington operation, because he has this whole warehouse full of people basically playing arts and crafts to get this shredded paper put and taped back together.
Exactly. Yeah. He's got this whole army of people they've gathered up all the shredded documents from the CIA, literally a mountain of garbage bags. And he wants them all put back together. He wants to know who this mole is.
Did anybody else shed a little bit of a tear tonight when we saw Dembe for the first time since Anslo Garrick?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Dembe's alive. That's good.
There he is.
No worries. He's carrying a fruit basket with some other tools and utensils inside of it.
Yes. Oh, he's always got something interesting with him, doesn't he?
But I think the bigger question is I didn't realize that Red took up religion during the small break we had over the holidays.
Yes, that's where he meets Lizzie. They're meeting in a church. He says he's keeping a low profile. Meeting in the church. This is where we get what we've come to expect from this series, our explanation of who this Blacklist member is. And he describes him as an artist who paints in blood and tissue samples.
And that is not an image that I'd prefer to go to bed with, at the end of the night. But at the same time, it's very interesting how they decide to move into finding out who the people were that they replaced. And so they basically try to track down this guy in Budapest in order to find out that he is indeed on the run, and Lizzie and Ressler are there to basically take him out and bring him in.
Yeah, they're just kind of staking out the bar, hanging around, and that's exactly what they do. They take him down in pretty short order.
But the bigger factor in this now is that we know that the Alchemist operates kind of like Red, where if you end up crossing Red or crossing the Stewmaker or now crossing the Alchemist, he's going to take you out if you decide to speak out of turn and actually get the Alchemist caught. So this seems to be a motive of these people on the Blacklist, that if you kind of mess up your contract, then they're going to take you out.
They're going to silence you. They don't want to be found out who they are.
So he basically first, instead of taking out the guy, takes out his wife, because his wife was like, you crashed our plane. We were supposed to disappear. Now we're dead. I don't understand. And then he's basically grilling the wife in order to get Clark Schroeder's name out of her in order to basically go finish the other half of the job.
Exactly.
So the one thing that we learned from this episode tonight is that whenever you are sitting either in jail or a police station, FBI, whatever, do not take a stick of gum from your lawyer.
Don't eat the gum. And it was really great the way they did it too, because he basically demanded it. He's like, give me a piece of that. And he did. And he ends up laying on the floor foaming at the mouth.
And it was really great how they decided to work all of the stuff in, because again, it seems like Lizzie and a company, of course, jumped to the easy answer really quickly. But here they're like going through this dating profile site, and they're able to backtrack into what the Alchemist picture might look like. And of course, Ressler basically kind of messes his pants as he turns around and goes, I just left that guy in the room.
Yeah, and that was actually a really nice touch that they did, because as soon as he sees the picture, Lizzie walks up with the picture and he knows, this isn't good.
Right. And even at that point, Lizzie's like, what the heck is Ressler running from? Ressler, where are you going?
That was a good scene though. I like that.
But of course, they're both dead. So now not only are they dead, but of course the replacements are dead. And we basically move on to find out that the Alchemist actually has a wife and daughter living at home.
Right. So, of course, they dispense Lizzie out to the house to talk with the wife. She's just all freaked out. She's like, Eric's a really dangerous man. You shouldn't be here. He's going to know you were here. He thinks we're still married. He's delusional. And somewhere in that conversation, the fact that there's a lab in the basement comes up.
Right. And so they track down some evidence, apparently, that they had that led them to some kind of a centrifuge for DNA sampling that they were able to track to Eric. And of course, this takes them to a specific corporation that apparently isn't really anything other than just a place for Eric to do his dirty work.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of a kill room that they would use in Dexter. He's got this set up with all this unbelievable equipment that he can use to alter teeth and remove DNA, and it's just unbelievable. It's like 8 or 10 rooms. It's like a torture chamber, but a very high-priced one.
So this is where the episode got a little confusing for both myself and you, I think, Dave. We were kind of sitting there chatting before the show that the Alchemist basically poses as a kind of movie producer, movie director looking for an actress.
We just see kind of a quick cutaway scene where the Alchemist, we know him now as Eric, is on the phone and he's calling, he's got like a bunch of headshots in front of him and he chooses the one he's going to use and he calls and he says, I know this is short notice, but we're filming this tomorrow. I need you to meet me. And then it's a quick cutaway to that lady walking up to an office door and Eric is standing outside the door and there's a sign hanging on there saying it's been moved to a different building. They decide to share a cab.
Right. And my only thought that I had at this point now is that we quickly broke away to him. And then when she's laying on the table, she's got dark hair already at this point. There's some pictures up on the wall. And then we cut away to someone that I thought was Lucy Brooks. The minute she came up, the first thing that popped into my head was, oh my gosh, that's the girl from the database that Red was looking at. But you thought it was a different person.
Yeah, I did. I thought it was that actress, because this is what I picked up from it and what I'm going to have to rewatch. After they come back from their commercial, they said they're going to share a cab. They come back from their commercial and you see a lady kind of made up different color hair and she's holding a manila folder that has Tom's name on it. And there's pictures of Tom and everything on the inside of it. And she says, hi, Tom. It's nice to meet you. I'm Jolene. And then that's it. They cut away from it. And then the next time we meet this Jolene is at a baby shower, which is being held at Tom and Lizzie's apartment.
And apparently she's a photographer, an art person. She jokes that she's a substitute teacher. So we don't really know exactly what Jolene's angle is when this comes down. So I'm going to tell my version of this, which I assumed that it was Lucy Brooks and that she was basically put on the case to either A, take a look at Tom and find out how she could get information about Tom, kind of casing the joint and making sure that he didn't step out of line, or, basically hired by Red, if you will, to protect Lizzie, or somebody else is working that angle in order to recruit Tom, because we always know Tom seemed a little suspicious, throughout the entire series. So I thought that maybe Lucy was there to maybe recruit Tom and just kind of feel him out and see how interested he might be in joining her side. But of course, that looks completely different if you go with your side of the story.
Right. My side of the story was the Alchemist hired this actress to portray this Jolene, and she's just playing a part. She's playing a role, and she doesn't know what she's doing. But the Alchemist has his own end game in mind that we have not yet seen. But I think we can both agree the way she entered was very odd, because Tom and Lizzie end up having a fight. Tom basically throws Lizzie under the bus because he wants her to cut back working, and she's refusing to do it. So there's some conversation going on at the baby shower, and he really does throw Lizzie under the bus, which leads to them having a fight. So they go up to their bedroom, and as they're standing in the bedroom, this lady just walks out of the bathroom in their bedroom. It was a really odd entrance, you have to admit.
And that was the weird part about it for me, too, because after Lizzie gets the phone call and walks away, she's kind of standing there with Tom, and they're kind of like looking at each other like, I know you, I don't know you, or we've worked together. It was very coy for some reason. Then they continue the coyness in the conversation down in the kitchen.
Yeah. It just had a really weird vibe to it. That's exactly what it was. It had a kind of a weird sexual tension, if you will, going on. But she's definitely flirting with Tom in that latter scene when they're back downstairs. She's inviting him to some, was it a photo exhibit or something where the lady, some kind of nude photo exhibit. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something very odd.
Yeah, coaxes him to basically sleep with her. Then she takes pictures during the act and then uses that to then put up together.
That's what it was. Sleeps with married men and takes pictures during the act. Yes, that's what it was.
But then the reason why I'm still thinking that it's Lucy Brooks is because the wife and the daughter end up going missing because Lizzie finds out that they're dead at the house. And then, of course, she kind of processes it the way the Blacklist processes it to get it through very quickly and says, oh, no, they're not really the wife and the kid. The wife and the kid have been abducted. So I'm thinking that the actress lady that he poached for the scene is actually the replacement for his wife, which means Lucy Brooks would still be in play in my theory.
Right. And that does make perfect sense. So I'm thinking you're probably right and I'm probably wrong. But we'll have to rewatch it to make sure.
Or maybe there's two of them. You never know. You can always just add DNA to people left and right.
Right, that's true. This guy can pretty much do whatever he wants. But the one thing he didn't count on, and again, in typical Blacklist style, Lizzie realizes when she went and spoke with the mother and daughter the first time, the daughter was on an insulin pump.
Oh, yes, that's right. And that's exactly how Aram decides to do his magical work in order to track her down and finds them basically 70 miles away at a gas station.
Exactly. And actually in a very intense scene, obviously the father does not realize that the little girl's on an insulin pump. They stop at this convenience store and he says, "Do you want a candy bar or anything?" And the mother's like, "Oh, are you kidding me? She's diabetic." And he knows instantly. So he lifts up the shirt, sees the pump. And right at that time, the little girl goes, "Look, Dad, I'm on TV." And the Amber Alert has come across.
The gunshots were a little bit sporadic for me in the visual effects department because I was curious. It looked like the shelf had blown up and I couldn't quite tell what was going on. I had thought that the daughter had an insulin attack and was passed out on the ground. I didn't realize she had gotten shot by the other guy. And then, of course, how convenient it was that the gun happened to fall to the side of the girl, which they, of course, zoomed in on and focused in on very craftily, if you will, knowing that that was going to be used eventually in the scene.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, this is all going down inside. Now we have a hostage situation. The SWAT team's outside and, up shows Lizzie and her team. And there's a little bit of a confrontation. Lizzie's like, "We need to talk to this guy." And the SWAT guy's like, we're supposed to protect the hostages. We don't really care about your guy.
Right. And Lizzie, of course, wants the names. She wants to find all these criminals that she'll be able to track down, which, of course, we find out is Red's endgame to get this list and not be able to, share it with the FBI. But surprisingly, in a turn of events, the wife's just fed up and the wife puts two in his back.
The daughter's laying there dying, presumably, and he's trying to cover his own butt. He's like, he wants immunity and he wants this. And the wife just picks up the gun and blows him away.
So he's dead. Cross off another one off the list. But there's still a lot in this episode. Tom, obviously, it almost seems like we could believe Tom that he really did go to Lincoln, Nebraska. I mean, it was a kind of a shoddy story that he tried to put off. "No, I didn't go to the job, but I was there and it just made me think of you and your dad and all this stuff." And, so Tom's just kind of trying to cover his tracks, I'm assuming. But then he's genuinely pissed off that he wasted good money on that seafood dinner because he just throws it in the garbage. And the first thing he does is calls Jolene.
Yeah. There was some tension earlier. Obviously, like we said, during the baby shower, he just feels that she's not taking this whole baby thing that seriously. They're going to talk and he's going to make this great dinner, which he does. And again, Lizzie doesn't show up and he's pissed. She's like, "Hey, I'll stop on the way home, pick up some Chinese." And he said, "Oh, that sounds great." They hang up and he picks up the phone and calls Jolene and says, "Let's go do that art exhibit thing."
And then, of course, while he's there having beers, having a good time, Lizzie's calling him. But of course, for that, he does not answer his phone.
Voicemail, buddy.
I got news for you, everybody. When your wife calls, you pick up the phone.
Yeah, it's not a good sign. Not a good sign. But that actually leads to the kind of the big drop in this episode. We're going to find out who the mole is.
Right. So they've basically been working on putting their arts and crafts together in this secret team of people that Red has, and they were able to put a document together enough that Red's able to put two and two together. He kind of camps out in an apartment, Red style, maybe having, a little drink while he has a gun in the other hand. And Mamma Mia, it's Maria. And I'm curious to find out where this goes because there's so much other things that are happening, right? Because you have Mr. Finch, and then you have the CIA, and then you have the NSA is probably involved in this somehow. And then, of course, the FBI with Liz and Harold and company. What I found over the last couple episodes now is that I think every person on the blacklist is advancing Red's agenda in some way to some huge, reveal. And I'm just hoping that reveal comes before the season end because I'd almost like to see what the fallout of that reveal is before we go into the summer break.
I have a feeling whatever it is, it's going to rock Lizzie's world. I don't think there's any way out of it for her on that.
That is definite. Definite. So, talkback question for this week. We don't know if it's the actress. We don't know if it's this person that Red was kind of looking up in the database. So, we're just going to throw it out to all you Blacklist listeners. Who do you think Jolene is? But more importantly, who is Jolene's employer?
I'll be interested to see. I mean, in my scenario, she's working for The Alchemist, but the Alchemist is gone. So that really doesn't make much sense.
But even if she's working for the Alchemist, I think in that scenario, she's working for Red, because Red would have hired the Alchemist in order to bring her in. And that's why Red was trying to find her, because Red wants to keep tabs on Lizzie and make sure Tom doesn't do anything stupid.
Yeah, okay, really, in that scenario, it could work out that, her job is just to become a sexual liaison to Tom so Lizzie can get angry and leave him.
And if it is Lucy Brooks, then two possibilities, right? Either, again, Red hired her, so it doesn't matter who she is because Red hired her and we agree on that. Or maybe she's working for Mr. Appleeater and Fitch and Company. So it's going to be interesting to see, where this all plays out, because I think the Jolene character is a nice introduction, but of course we'll be on a small hiatus here in a couple weeks. So hopefully they gives us some answers next week on who Jolene just might be.
I'm interested to find out. I can't wait.
Well, we want to remind you that the show's not done yet. Your answers to those talkback clips are coming up next, but you need the free TV Talk app in order to hear them. And without that app, you're missing out on half the show. So head on over to tvtalkapp.com from your iOS or Android device to get the full TV Talk experience.
And while you're online, head on over to tvtalk.com/win and make sure you get entered in our weekly prize drawing. And while you're there, go ahead and share with all your friends on Twitter and Facebook that you listen to TV Talk and TV Talk The Blacklist.
We hope you join us again next time as we continue the journey with the Cypress Agency next week, otherwise known as the Invasion of the Baby Snatchers. Until then, I'm Troy.
And I'm Dave, and we are most definitely keeping off the Blacklist.
And now it's time for this week's Talkback Clips.
We hope you enjoyed this special version of The Blacklist Exposed, previously aired on the TV Talk Network and used with permission. Until next time, I'm Agent Troy Heinritz. That's at Troy Heinritz on Twitter. And if you want to learn more about me, just visit, about.me/Troy Heinritz.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. You can hear me talking about movies and TV on the Hollywood Outsider podcast, as well as Remake This Movie Right. We are available at thehollywoodoutsiders.com or on Twitter at H_outsider. Be sure to subscribe, download the app, submit your feedback, but most importantly, keep yourself off of
The Blacklist.
The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production. Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.